another 20, 30. Oh, thank you. Thank you. If you have a chance to look at yourself in the mirror, you see, 30, 40, 50 years down the line, you'll see something different from what you're looking at now. Even if you have the best plastic surgeon in the world, you know, that's it's going to be very different. So we must be prepared for all of this. And importantly, we must realize how it's happening to everybody, not just to me. It's happening to everyone. And according to Lord Buddha and the teachings, people you knew earlier in your life, and who died, they may have reincarnated in forms that you would totally not recognize. You know, you wouldn't recognize the person, even if they were born as a human, of course. But they may be reborn in any other of the countless realms of samsara, or they could be your pet animal now. There's no way for us to know, is there, right now? Given our limited knowledge, limited perception. So generate a sense of care and compassion for all these sentient beings, including oneself. A sentient being, one definition is that a sentient being is any being not yet a Buddha, is technically a sentient being. But another more sort of perhaps meaningful way to look at sentient being, which will connect with our heart, with our emotion, is that a sentient being is somebody who has pain, who has dukkha, unsatisfactoriness all the time in their life. Never a moment, actually, of pure happiness, pure joy, unalloyed pure joy, which lasts. So sentient being, we're all sentient beings, most likely here, all of us. And of course, all the sentient beings in the world. And somehow, you know, one can use present situations in the world to generate a lot of compassion, I think. It's not just things like war and the horrific things happening in the war, and the fact that winter has descended on Europe and Ukraine, and that the freezing conditions with people without warmth, without heating, either because it's been destroyed or because in the case of Europe and England, I know people just don't have enough money, the poorer people, to keep themselves warm. It's a choice between being warm or having food in your stomach. So, of course, there's that level of pain. But I'm also thinking of things like, you know, World Cup football. And you see ecstatic players and crowd getting so animated and excited, and you know, when their side scores a goal or wins a match, you know, but how long does that last? You know, how long does that last? You know, jumping up and down when they score a goal, and then how long will that joy last? It's so childish somehow. It's like a child being ecstatically happy when they've built a little sandcastle on the beach. And then when the water comes, or another child or someone deliberately or mistakenly treads on it, then the howls, you know, howl of pain, howl of unhappiness. Yeah, so even you see people ecstatically happy, and one can be happy for them, but there's a sadness, isn't there? Knowing it won't last. And there's a sadness in knowing that, or at least being open to the teaching, that there is not any single tiny corner in samsara where there is pure happiness, by definition. If we are still governed by delusion and karma, then there's nowhere on this earth or in this universe where we will find pure happiness. Of course, the moment our mind becomes liberated, then everywhere for us is we are in peace, nirvana, or Buddhahood, however high we have reached. But at the moment, all is dukkha, first noble truth. First noble truth. We always come back to that. So how to deal with that? This is an extended motivation. We will have our little quiet time in a minute. So this is about pain, getting to know pain. This is from a very interesting commentary on the Shantideva that I began looking at. One buys books and doesn't look at them, and then later there's a great happiness in finding the book on one shelf and realizing, oh, yeah, this is very useful. So this is from a book called Uncommon Happiness by Ziga Kongtrul Rinpoche. And in it, he's speaking about pain and how we have to come to terms with our pain. In a chapter called Digesting Pain, quite an interesting phrase, digesting pain. And here we're talking about, properly digesting it, not indigestion, but digesting pain. The sense that we are using what we eat to provide nourishment, in this case, spiritual nourishment. I myself, he says, have trouble tolerating emotional pain, but I increasingly see how we must welcome our pain in order to become strong, stable, and capable of establishing ourselves as practitioners. We need to summon our courage to tolerate more pain in many different ways. Often people think that tolerance means something like, oh, just grin and bear it. Perhaps for just a little bit in the beginning, there is an element of that, but from that point on, tolerance is actually about becoming more and more clear inside. Apply a clear mind and intention. Work with your own understanding of the interdependent origination of how this pain has come to exist and how in reality it doesn't really exist from its own side, how it is just kind of the play of illusion. In this way, even tolerance isn't really the right word. The phrase is more like eat your pain. When you eat it and digest it, metabolize it, it becomes nourishing. It's no longer much of a problem. It's like the metaphor used of a peacock, which is said to be able to eat poisonous things. And it just adds to the beauty of the tail of the peacock. So we need to get to know our pain intimately, which is, of course, the last thing we want to do. We try to run away from it. So getting to know pain intimately can make us revolt against the root cause that created that pain in the first place. Of course, one always feels the pain, but knowing the pain intimately is different from just feeling the pain. Knowing the pain intimately means using our discriminating awareness, our discriminating intelligence. Feel the pain, well, even animals feel the pain. So, but in working with knowing it, you have to sit with your pain. You have to very objectively get into your pain to understand it more, and then inspire yourself to be patient in order to work with it further. So we study the problem first, and then make a bridge to the practices that remedy it. So this is the great Mahayana method for increasing the paramita practices, the bodhisattva practices in our life. The only problem is, the only drawback is that often when we do this, there's a sense of discouragement or judgment of our own mind. So when this kind of aversion or nausea towards ourselves arises, we should know that something positive actually is happening. Something is penetrating this shell, shell of our cocoon. Something is making us wake up. We're feeling uncomfortable. So that's a good thing. That's a good sign. Remember, we said the other day, I was quoting another Lama who said that the Dharma is not meant to make us feel comfortable. Certainly not at our level in the beginning. Dharma is not to feel comfortable. He says it's to help us turn our life upside down, to make us feel very uncomfortable, to torpedo our self-assurance, our smugness, our sense of easy satisfaction, based on ignorance. So Dharma is definitely not meant to make us just feel good. If we want to feel good, then there are many other methods. A nice warm shower on a cold day, a nice massage, So many things can make us feel good. But the Dharma, well, the Dharma is there to destroy the ego, which has been our illusory friend since beginningless time. Okay, so know that something positive is happening when we feel this uncomfortable sense, or nausea towards all of this. Something is penetrating to the core. So this is good. So if you give in now and quit, then nothing will happen. The habit will stay intact. But if you don't give in to it, if you simply continue your practice, slowly the reactions will be overcome, and you'll not be so judgmental of yourself, and you'll find yourself thinking more intelligently and being more spacious with your own mind, your tendencies, your habits. So this is the promise, in a sense, of the Dharma. Not that we should have too many promises or expectations, but since we have the Buddha nature, you see, then everything is workable. We do have a mind that at root is spacious, intelligent, and full of warmth and kindness. We've said this many times before, but we have to keep on reminding ourselves, really, just as we have to keep on exercising our body and brushing our teeth. Our mind, by nature, is pure, it is spacious, which means it's not cluttered up and uptight. It's relaxed, it's not tense. It's very intelligent, it's not stupid or short-sighted. And it's very kind, actually, full of loving kindness, not anger. And again, as we have mentioned in previous sessions, often we feel anger is predominant, anger is more powerful, it's more dramatic and more powerful than kindness. But of course, from a Buddhist perspective, and we can maybe see this in our experience sometimes, anger is based on delusion. It's based on untruth, whereas kindness and love are based on a universal truth which exists in the universe. Anger is painful. Nobody benefits from anger. It is not in tune with the fact of interdependence, whereas kindness and compassion are. And kindness and compassion help us and help others. This is very clear. To the extent of being essential for a baby's development, the brain development is actually dependent on constant loving touch and kindness from the mother, or whoever the principal caregiver is. If one were babies who are brought up in a confused, angry environment, they have tremendous problems later in life, and they can, if that carries on, they can become people who become very, very um, twisted and numb, unable to feel empathy for themselves or others, and they can easily become, people who harm others. They can become killers. So we're saying anger is against the nature of things, whereas love, compassion, and so forth, totally in tune with reality, and that they are what nourish us. So that is actually more powerful. You could say temporarily anger is, and all these factors are more prominent in the world. Yeah, they are. But fundamentally, it is kindness, compassion are the universal truths. Yeah. Let's reflect on this for a little while as part of our motivation, and then we'll spend some time silently. Okay, be with the breath. Be with the breath. And a sense of relaxing and letting go with the out breath, and not wanting anything from this short, quiet session, this quiet phase of the session. Don't want anything, just be. Be relaxed, be still, sense of awareness of the breath without trying to get anything from it. Relaxing with the out breath. Okay, so we'll sit for 7-8 minutes. So it should be quite heartening for us to know that actually love and compassion are more realistic, more truthful, more basic, more fundamental than the deluded states of mind, which are based on ignorance, based on the mistaken perception, based as they are all on self-grasping ignorance, right? There's a couple of very powerful examples from real life that also show us this. One is something that His Holiness the Dalai Lama likes to repeat, especially when he's giving basic teachings to general public, but also I think probably sometimes when there are lots of erudite scholars around listening. It says that, when young children are very young children, when they are shown photographs of happy children, happy peers, then they show happiness on their faces, in their expressions while watching it. If they are shown images of children crying or in distress, then they get distressed. The children watching that, seeing that, show signs of distress, unhappiness. Or if they're shown a short, video of something not very nice, children arguing or something like that, then they're not happy. Later in life, of course, when we become more sophisticated and even more conditioned and socialized, of course, we may show distress when we see distressful, images. But depending on what's happened to us in our life, we could even be quite happy if we were to see, people we don't like having a hard time, or even being bombed or killed, But not with the children. It doesn't seem to be there. That disturbed, twisted state of mind doesn't seem to be there with the children. Another very beautiful, very, again, story. I haven't got the photograph with me, but there were twins who were born, and they were both in, bad shape. When they were born, they had to be put in an incubator, to survive. But one of the twins was doing really badly. It looked like it was going to die. One of the twins was okay. The other twin was looked like it was going to die. And then spontaneously, the other twin put its little arm around that other twin. Spontaneously reached out, put its arm around the other twin. And then from that moment on, the nurses said the other twin's vitals improved and that twin survived. So there's some kind of natural human warmth. And I'm sure many animals have that as well, of course. So this is a kind of default position, to use modern language. It's our basic nature. So it's not like we're having to import something from outer space. It's something natural. Yeah. So we can all connect with that. We are all connected to that, one might say. Just like the jewel is always there. It's just the garbage is covering it. The treasure is there under the ground, but the starving man is not aware of it, so cannot utilize it. Right under where he lives is the treasure, but he just has no idea. He's so caught up with his temporary, painful situation. Okay, so anyway, I think it's important to remember these things: death and impermanence, the Buddha nature, our potential, That is so important to remember, because often we feel the opposite of that. Instead of feeling spacious, we feel very claustrophobic and cramped. We feel caught up in our little cocoons, our thoughts. Even when one feels one has been, one understands things quite well and has been practicing for a while, still there are periods, from my own experience a couple of years ago, dreadful time for months on end. Could not sleep much at all, and would be the mind would be quite, almost in a sort of vicious way, inflicting pain on itself through various worries and ways of thinking. So this is what we feel sometimes is who we are, but actually we are totally spacious and open by nature. Yeah. And so instead of being kind of short-sighted and ignorant, actually by nature we are highly intelligent. There's a lot of wisdom within us, a basic sanity, a basic intelligence, because of what we are here calling our Buddha nature. And rather than being very selfish and cruel and angry and so forth, as sometimes we feel we are, or we might feel we are that way as a species, because we've been so stupid and ignorant and greedy and angry. But actually, it's not the case. The Buddha nature is in the nature of unlimited kindness, compassion, warmth, basic warmth. So we need to reflect on these things and study more, and practice more, and then it will become much more evident that this is the case. Of course, the person who works with garbage all the time, garbage thoughts, garbage this, garbage that, is going to think life is like that. But when we begin to clear away the garbage, one realizes something else is there. If you happen to be born, or reach your age of being more conscious of things when there's been a massive volcanic explosion, and the dust and so forth is blotted out the sun for weeks and months on end, well, of course, you're going to think the sun is some kind of myth, doesn't exist. But then when it clears, then wow, it's been there all the time. So we should encourage ourselves with these kind of thoughts, reasonings, when we feel desperate about things, when we feel unhappy, depressed, as it's very easy for us to be. And imagine how many people are like that in the world right now, because they have some incredibly powerful reasons to feel that way. In exile from their homes, many of them had their homes destroyed. It's the Indonesian earthquake has been overshadowed by the World Cup and Ukraine maybe, but there's that happening now for people in Indonesia. We forget already that 1/3 of Pakistan was under floods. And so imagine what that has done to countless people's lives, people like you and me. Not the politicians and the army people who have a vested interest in keeping up divisions and hatred and so forth, but ordinary people like you and me who just want to be happy and comfortable. And then we forget about the, starving millions in the Horn of Africa, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Eritrea, those places. So then we forget that we think, yeah, well, this is what life is. There's nothing else. So we should encourage ourselves that, we fortunate people must use our time to nurture the Buddha nature. So one great way to do that is to study texts like this, Shantideva, which are like a wonderful manure, fertilizer for the Buddha nature. Mm. So spend a few moments just letting go with the out breaths, generating a sense of spaciousness, just letting go and relaxing with the out breath. You can remember some powerful words of the great Milarepa, the great yogi, when he said in one of his wonderful poems that he sang all the time, like a lion, I have no fear. Like an elephant, I have no anxiety. Like a madman, I have no expectations, no hope. I tell you the honest truth. When he says I have no hope, it doesn't mean he feels hopeless in the ordinary sense of that word. What he means is there's no expectation, no vain hopes, no striving all the time. I want, I must have, I should, that we torture ourselves with. No, he's achieved that very spacious state of a deep awareness. Yeah. And within that very life, yeah. A life where, remember, earlier on, he had even murdered people with his special powers. He had killed people. And in that very same life, due to the unflinching devotion to his teacher, his Guru Marpa, and his devotion to his practice, he was able to reach that state and become enlightened at the time of death. Yeah. Okay. So now we can look at a few verses of the text. I hope you're still with us. Haven't fallen asleep. Yeah. Okay, we're going quite fast. Day before yesterday. Maybe it was the result of the clear, fresh air which I was breathing up at Tushita Center in Dharamsala. Today I'm back in Delhi, so maybe a bit slower. Shantideva was talking about how worldly gain and so forth are really not to be trusted. All in the context of what the childish want and don't want, and that I should return harm when my own body and my possessions are being, threatened and so forth. So Shantideva says in verse 61, what use will be the life of one who only commits wrongdoing? If for the sake of material gain, one causes the merits needed for life to degenerate. What's the point of having a long life if we're just creating non-virtue, unwholesomeness? Better to have a short life. And here we need to discuss a little bit what we mean by the merits needed for life. What are the merits we need for life? Well, we've already spoken about the merit we need for this precious human life. You know, prayers, stainless prayers, but more importantly, pure morality, not harming others, having a very generous-hearted spirit, mind, being generous to others in all the ways we can be. And then the prayers, aspirational prayers, to be a human again and again, and to be in touch with, with the teachings and authentic teachers. All these are factors which have created this amazing human opportunity that you and I have, which very few people have on this planet. They have human bodies, but Shantideva would argue that most of them are using their human bodies, human minds, just to create more causes for samsara, for suffering, for future pain. So causes needed for life, we need to have created some powerful causes. And for example, non-killing, not killing, saving life. This is a very powerful factor for extending lifespan and having long life. Doesn't mean that if you're diagnosed with cancer, you can definitely live a long life by saving animals and so forth, although it can help for sure. Tibetans and others do that. They save the lives of animals that are about to be killed on their birthdays especially, or for the sake of people they love or their teachers. And for sure it has some effect, and it has powerful effect on one's own life, if not this life, then in the future. So saving life, protecting life, taking care of people, basically, are all factors that are going to create cause for life. You might be someone who, with a good motivation, produces certain kinds of medicine, which help people get free of sickness and thereby have longer lives. So that is also a factor for life. Having just a positive intention, good intention, a very loving, positive intention, this will be something that extends one's life. Because again, as Dalai Lamaji said, anger and so forth have been proven to be inimical to long life. They've done statistical searches on people with a lot of anger, so such people have heart attacks earlier in life. They have shorter lives, people with more anger and disturbing emotions. So yeah, like that. So he's saying, what the point of having a life where you are causing the merits to decline? What we just mentioned are all merits which create the causes for life. So what's the point if, for the sake of material gain, Shantideva says, we just keep on engaging in actions that cause these factors for long life to degenerate? So we kill, we are nasty to people, we don't protect others, we're just protecting ourselves in a selfish way. We indiscriminately harm the lives of others. And it's so sad. There was this photograph yesterday, day before. You might have seen it. This person, I can't remember where, he caught, I think he caught, it's a record-sized goldfish that he caught. I had no idea goldfish could get that big. It's a huge goldfish. It's like huge. He's holding it in his arms like it's, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 kilos, whatever. So here he is proudly holding that goldfish, which he has, let's not use any other language, he's killed it, right? He fished it, he caught it. caught in that context means he killed it. He didn't catch it to throw it back into the water, I don't think. So that's what we do, and we get prizes for that. World's biggest goldfish, So just think how many billions of animals actually we kill on a daily basis. Definitely into the millions. We humans kind of creating the causes, you might say. We've been creating the causes for many years, many decades, especially when all these things became industrialized, factory farming, trawling, fishing. They become huge affairs, right? Not just a bunch of little fishing boats going out. It's industrial scale. So the causes of that, you could say collectively, for there to be more disease, more short lives coming around the corner. And this is what the Buddhist text is saying. Lifespan is going to decline in the future to a very, very short span of life before it rises again, due to, again, the causes for life to be, again, being practiced, like the goodness, the saving of life, and so forth. But before that, life is going to become shorter. I think some texts say it will be 10 years. Our life will be 10 years. So we'll have youth, middle age, old age, death within 10 years. We can't say it's impossible because we don't have the mental capacity to understand yet those kind of things. But it seems like, according to both Christian and Buddhist traditions, that the lifespan at one point was very, very long, and it will be very, very long again in the future, meaning hundreds, thousands of years, possibly even. But in between, it will go down due to the factors for life and so forth. Degeneration being so powerful. Yeah. And then he had said in verse 62, which we had also covered, how, if I should be angry with those people who say unpleasant things about me, which weaken other people's confidence in me, and this is just not even talking about the fact that those words might be truthful and actually point out our hidden faults. But Shantideva's retort is that, if that's the case, why don't you feel upset when people are saying bad things about other people? You don't care about that. You don't care about how it's affecting their reputation. All you care about is your own reputation, Why am I not patient with unpleasant words about myself, since they are related to the arising of disturbing conceptions? He says in verse 63, if I can patiently accept this lack of confidence because it's related to something else, then why not when it's related to me? Well, why not? Because right now we are governed by the Buddhist devil, right? The Buddhist devil, the Buddhist shaitan. And who is the Buddhist shaitan? Isarji, Vishad, who is the Buddhist shaitan? Who is the Buddhist devil? I'm going to unmute you so you can tell me about this. Who is the Buddhist devil? Okay, folks, wake up call. Stop looking at your mobiles or at your favorite soap operas. This is the favorite soap opera for now. Your very own Tushita channel. Hi, Isarji, bataiye. Who is the Buddhist devil?
Kabirji, is it a self-cherishing mind?
Not is it. I want a statement, not a question.
Okay, it is a self-cherishing mind.
10 out of 10. And what is that based on? That's the behavioral factor, but what's the underlying factor of self-cherishing mind? You're right, self-cherishing attitude, mind, but what causes self-cherishing? Huh?
Self-centered attitude.
No.
Accompanied by self-grasping ignorance.
Self-grasping ignorance, correct. Correct. Vishad comes in there with a direct goal there. Yes, good. Good. Thank you, both of you. I'm very glad I didn't have to embarrass you or anybody else. So we are not upset when others are affected. We're upset when we're affected because of the natural grasping at the I, which is there. Not only there when we're about to fall off a high ladder, but it's there all the time, especially in sensitive situations, you know? Yeah. It's throbbing violently in many situations when you're angry with someone, or whether you're, down on one knee about to offer a ring to someone whom you hope is going to marry you, whatever it is, but there's, oh, me, I, is there. You're grasping at yourself. You are, full of trepidation, fear, or anger, or whatever it is. Envy. Why can't I be as good as that person? How come they're like that? How come they're getting the praise? I want the praise. And especially if then people, of course, abuse us, say that we did something that we haven't actually done, unjustly condemn us, accuse us unjustly. We feel so upset because of the shaitan inside. Then, of course, we also got as far as saying that, we should take it easy and be connected with the vital aspects of dharma and not be so upset when people are even destroying statues and so forth, verse 64. It's improper for me to resent those things because for many reasons, but the reason Shantideva gives is that the Buddhas can't be injured. The Buddhas can't really be injured. How can you injure Buddha nature? How can you injure basic sanity? You can temporarily obscure it, but you cannot destroy it. So, and of course, the holy image, texts, to destroy them is incredibly negative karma, but we should not resent it. We should feel, of course, great compassion for anyone who might be doing that. It is dreadful karma. But we should use the reasoning that it's not the actual Dharma itself. And the Buddhas can never be, hurt. I should prevent anger arising towards those who injure my spiritual masters, relatives, and friends. Instead, I should see, as in the manner shown before, that such things arise from conditions. Again and again, he's reminding us to look at the causes of things. Things have causes. Otherwise, we take things very personally and emotionally, or somehow directed towards me. We put up the target so we get hurt. Things happen because of a whole chain, whole nexus of causes and conditions. Which is highly complex. Yeah, highly complex. So I should prevent, we'll stop soon and have discussion. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. Since embodied creatures, verse 66, are injured by both animate beings and inanimate objects, why only bear malice to the animate? It follows that I should patiently accept all harm. Because he's saying, in the implication here is, I should therefore, get angry on trees that are in my way or that fall on my car, or stones that fall off a mountain in a landslide. I should get angry with them, inanimate objects, And he's kind of implying that's just ridiculous. So just as we should patiently bear the harm we get from living beings, like with minds, so we should patiently accept any harm that comes from anything. all these asteroids hurling towards the Earth that they like to excite us with on, at least in my mobile phone. I get all these messages unasked for. I don't know how to block them. So there's this, 900-foot asteroid hurtling towards the Earth, NASA says. And then, of course, in the description, well, it's 4.6 million miles away, kilometers away, but still, it's still called a near-Earth object or something. Near-Earth object. And of course, they're traveling at unbelievably high speeds. The other day, this one was traveling at 48,000 kilometers an hour, So it's going something like 13 point something kilometers every second. That's pretty fast, that's pretty fast. So, yes, we could get angry with those things, but that would be stupid. So what NASA does, of course, they tested this, you probably read about it, yeah. They fire a rocket at an asteroid, and to break the asteroid or to deflect it, to deflect the orbit, yeah. We do all sorts of very clever things. We can do that. We can send rockets up to hit an asteroid which is going so fast. I mean, that's unbelievable. But we have trouble identifying and destroying the inner troublemakers, which aren't, well, perhaps they're also traveling very fast. These negative emotions from one to another. It's pretty fast, you have to admit. They catch us unawares, these negative emotions, one after another, very fast. But yeah, maybe 48,000 kilometers an hour, I don't know. But anyway, we're very clever on the outside. But inside, we have yet to discover that intelligence. But it's taught in the Dharma. Should one person ignorantly do wrong and another ignorantly become angry with the wrongdoer, who would be at fault? Who would be without fault? It's like you're, as a mature adult, you're looking at two very foolish children just fighting with each other. One doing something stupid, the other kid then becoming very angry with the wrongdoer. So who is at fault? Who is without fault? Why did I, and then this very powerful reminder, which is coming again and again in this chapter, why did I previously commit those actions because of which others are now causing me harm? Why did I do it? Since everything is related to my actions, why should I bear malice towards these enemies? These so-called enemies, these people who are harming me, causing distress. Why did I previously commit those actions? Yeah. And when I've seen this to be so, why then I should strive for what is meritorious in order to certainly bring about loving thoughts between all. Okay. Let's have some discussion, folks. I'll pretend that this lukewarm water is tasty, I don't know, Peruvian coffee or something. First grade Darjeeling, yummy. Or Coke and rum. Yeah, cold evening, Coke and rum. Yes, yes. Whoops, did I say the wrong thing? Arunaji, you have a question or comment? No? Okay, Arunaji, I think, is just stirring from a very peaceful slumber. Anji? Rum, yes, like I had in your house once. Don't pass it on. Yeah, I had Coke and rum at Aruna's earlier in the year, I believe. Very tasty, but maybe not something to repeat again and again. I mean, either verbally or actually. Okay, folks, what would you like to discuss? Do you want some? Do you need something? There's biscuits. Even biscuits without sugar in them. Abominations like that. Go for it. Okay, folks. What would you like to mention? बिल्कुल नहीं. Apurva ji, anything?
Hello, Kabir ji. It's
Hi.
very nice to come back to the text with you.
Okay, well, you had a very wonderful time with the Venerable. Very
course,
grateful.
yes.
Very
Very,
grateful.
very grateful for that.
Yeah, we'll have more of such visitations. Meanwhile, you have to put up with me, so I'm sorry about this. And
No,
my
not at all.
my
Our
frivolity.
privilege.
So what would you like to say apart from increasing my pride through praising me? What would you like to say?
Nothing really in particular. I'm just mulling over the text. And actually, after last time, I was thinking about the part about, how the Buddha Dharma can't be harmed, even if the statues are harmed. As much as I think it's really generous for the teachers, and it's a lovely thing to think about, because it's the teaching is indestructible. But at the same time, I was just wondering if a teaching like this falls in the wrong hands, would that encourage wrongdoers? But I guess that's why it's their karma, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, of course, what we're talking about is relative level and ultimate level. We have to discriminate. On the ultimate level, Dharma cannot be harmed. On the ultimate level, we cannot be harmed. But on the relative level, yes, Dharma can be harmed. Dharma can be destroyed. The Dharma was extinguished in India pretty much, the Buddhist Dharma, at the end of the 12th century, right? By the killings and the burnings and so forth that happened. So on a relative level, yeah, Dharma can be destroyed. Or you could say the means for people to investigate and so forth could be destroyed. Not that they lose their minds, because we can never lose our minds, but you lose the libraries, the teachers get killed, and so forth. This is what happened, for example, not just in Tibet, but in Mongolia. Thousands of monastics were killed under the early years of Stalinism, starting in 1921. And then monasteries were destroyed in Mongolia, like in Tibet. So you could say they still haven't recovered from that, despite a lot of efforts going on the last 20 years or so. They haven't recovered from that. So on that level, yeah, Dharma can be destroyed and severely hampered and so forth. But of course, the point Shantideva is making in the text is there's no use us getting angry or resentful when these things happen, because that's not going to help us develop bodhisattva attitude and so forth. On the other hand, doesn't mean that we just sit back and allow people to do whatever they want to do, if we can help it. Because one of the bodhisattva vows is to stop people engage in wrongdoing if we can, if we're capable. And it's the breaking of a vow if we allow people to get away with very, very harmful actions when we could do something to stop them. And we just sit back and say, oh, well, nothing really matters, because ultimately neither they nor their actions nor the Dharma exist. Dharma exists relatively. From its own side, doesn't exist from its own side. But if we're going to benefit from the Dharma, then we need texts, we need teachers, we need centers, we need facilities, right? So if people are out there destroying them, then we have to do what we can, right?
Kabir ji, 2500 years ago, Mowgli Putra Tisu predicted that Dharma will expand after 2,500 years of passing of Buddha, and it will come in India from outside even.
Yeah, I mean, Buddha made many predictions. Yeah. So, yeah,
It was
there is
like
going to be
1956 when 2,500 years completed, and
yes, yes,
and
yes,
coming of Dalai Lama to India, and then coming of SN Goenka to India. It was what a great chance.
mhm, mhm.
And that
Right.
way, it's like a script, like a Mowgli Puttishu, whatever Ashokan court he told in 2,500 became truth.
Yeah, yeah. There's many different predictions, and I think some are more accurate than others. But in general, we have to say that it's very important that we pray that the Dharma lasts as long as possible. But of course, if we're not careful, it will just become texts and statues and superficial discussion of the texts by people who haven't really realized it, charlatans like myself. So then if that goes on, then it could be damaging. So people have to, we have to rely on authentic people who have deep realizations. If they disappear, then we're in big trouble.
This is applied Buddhism is more important. Practical applied Buddhism. Applied Buddhism.
Yeah, but I'm saying to apply it, you need people who have applied it teaching you, right? If they disappear, and there could be many reasons for them disappearing. One, through being eliminated, the other through the karmic cause not having been created for them to stay. So it's like it said that if people are just being degenerate and squabbling and stupid, then there's no reason for the enlightened teachers to stay. They just have very short lives, or they just don't reincarnate here, anymore. So we have to keep on creating the causes for holy beings to reincarnate in our midst. And we do that through authentic practice, through aspirational prayers, like in the 7-limb prayer. We pray, don't we? The 5th and 6th limbs, we pray that, the Buddhas teach the Dharma, and that they do not pass away into nirvana. So these are ways of keeping the enlightened energy, keeping the enlightened energy on the planet, creating causes for awakened masters to reincarnate here and teach. If we don't care about it, or if we just engage in a lot of disharmony and so forth, that is said to be a very powerful factor for the Dharma to degenerate and teachers to stop manifesting. Or if they manifest, it's in ways that are not that helpful, or they have very short lives. They don't stay long with us. That's a function of our karma, our negative karma. So yeah, we have to be very careful. How to deal, there's a question here, how to deal with anger when dealing with people you're close to, like during an argument or a conversation, how to control anger. Chahat, have you been to our previous sessions? Or the sessions with the Venerable Nun? Hello.
Hello, hi. Sorry,
Yeah.
I have a very bad throat right now. I have attended few of them, but few I couldn't attend.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole bunch of things have been mentioned in this regard. I would recommend that you look at this text in your spare time. Very important to study this text if you can. But in general, we have to think, what are the benefits of being angry? One needs to look at this from a Dharma perspective. From a Dharma perspective, then this deals, of course, people you're close to, that can be harder. because there's that very strong emotional bond with people. They can often press one's emotional buttons far more effectively than other people, neutral people, or strangers. So how to control anger? Well, first you have to think, does anger harm me or not? It's like if you're eating a certain food or taking a certain medicine, you check with your doctor or someone, is this medicine, this food suited for me, or is it going to harm me? So what are the positive points of anger? From Buddhist perspective, hardly any. There's none. If it's real anger, which is a mistaken state of mind that is exaggerating negative qualities in a situation or person or whatever, and then trying to harm it or push it away with aversion, that anger, that if it fits the definition of anger, then it is not something which is at all positive. And by engaging in it, one just makes it easier for us to get angry again and again in the future. And if you look at the karmic effects of anger, it is hellish suffering, which we can see anyway in our life. If we get very angry, or if we have ever lived with someone briefly or whatever who gets angry a lot, it's a terrible, it's like a hell. It's like a hellish situation when people get really angry. And then you could also think that someone close to you, if you get angry with them, it's even more powerful in a way, or with a friend, because then you're used to that person's kindness and you like them and you want to be with them. Then if they get angry, it's horrible. It's like, isn't it? It's like a sudden shock when that person gets angry. It's awful. So one can reflect on the harm that you are inflicting on yourself when you get angry, and the harm that you are inflicting on others. It's just going to create more and more and more and more pain in the future, more and more anger in the future. And then another way to look at it is the more vast, you could say, or long-term, of course, meditation on emptiness, developing wisdom, of course. But I was going to say, based on something very interesting that Shantideva says very early on in this chapter 6, where he says, where is it? He says in verse 7 of chapter 6, having found its fuel of mental unhappiness in the prevention of what I wish for, and in doing what I do not want, hatred increases and then destroys me. So he talks about mental unhappiness arising when I don't get what I want. So we actually see that the underlying cause for anger is desire, is wanting. We want a lot. We want this, we want that. When we don't get it, we get angry. We get frustrated, So there's a lot of mental unhappiness. That is the fuel. If we were really happy people, basically happy, relaxed, happy people, anger would not be a problem. It would just not need to arise. But the fuel of anger is mental unhappiness, which keeps on coming up if we don't know how to work with our minds. We keep on having a lot of unruly thoughts about wanting this and not wanting that, being upset, when something is happening which you think is, which you don't want. It could be something as small as a sound which you don't want, the sound of, I don't know, it could be the sound of something very useful like the garbage van. You might get upset that the garbage van comes to your colony every day and makes a noise, whereas in fact it's doing something very essential and useful. But we get angry with it because we just, we're attached to some kind of peace that we are wanting, or some, So we get angry at that, or the neighbor's dog barking, or whatever, Maybe it's our own dog barking, we don't mind. But if it's someone else's dog, we mind, like stupid thing. But we can develop this like and dislike attitude. So a lot of mental unhappiness builds up, with that kind of reactive mind. And then that is fuel for anger. So I would say, if you know certain people or situations make you angry, try to, of course, short term, try to avoid them. And spend as much time as you can developing a sort of spacious, more relaxed state of mind. If that requires going for walks in nature, if it requires, doing breath awareness meditation or listening to certain kind of music, these can all be very helpful temporarily. Meditation, generating a mind that is more relaxed. Of course, we're not a very relaxed society, are we? We're in a hurry, we are like spinning tops. We feel we are something wrong if our social calendar isn't full, and so forth. So we become very busy, very active, and we think that's a great thing. But it just creates more and more hot air, more and more confusion, more and more exhaustion after a while, more and more mental unhappiness. We don't know how to be content. So these things like contentment, relaxation, letting go of being uptight, these things can help a great deal with anger. And the other thing, of course, the other great mantra or whatever formula is to always remember how the other person is sick. I'm sick and other people are sick. Sick people need compassion, not anger. So others are sick with the negative emotions, which are much, much, much more harmful than any disease you could think of, any physical disease. So therefore, if someone is behaving badly, making you angry, their actions from that perspective should make you feel very, very, very compassionate towards them. How sad that this person who has the Buddha nature, which is so amazing, how sad that they are behaving like a mad person and destroying the causes of happiness by engaging in unwholesome emotions. How sad. How terrible. So these are just some things to reflect upon. But if you feel, one important way is to also, as I said, just think how it's harming me. So be wisely selfish and remember how avoiding anger is preventing harm to yourself. It's harming you. Why engage in things that harm you? We already do enough of things that harm us. So why also engage in this anger, which is the most harmful thing we can do for ourselves? And it's based on attachment, a kind of attachment to what I want, what I don't want. Then we see how the relaxed mind, the mind of contentment is so important. To be content sometimes with not having or doing very much. Being just cool. One teacher has a wonderful title of a book called Carefree Dignity. Carefree Dignity. Carefree. Wonderful. Without cares, meaning not careless, but carefree. Dignity. Dignified. That's why we sit in our meditation posture a certain way. It's very dignified. We don't move around. We're very dignified and still and calm. So in that calm state, more clarity can arise, more intelligence can arise, and all of that. The more calmness and intelligence we have, these are wonderful factors for working with anger and its causes. But if we're uptight and in a hurry and busy and discontented, then that is more fuel for anger, isn't it? So I hope some of that is useful. What else, folks? The night is young. My aunt is in Himachal, so I don't have any WhatsApp message reminding me of dinner. My faithful cook is at home and he does the needful. So one is really very blessed, very fortunate. Have someone cooking one's meals, goodness me. Yeah. Yes, Ashwin, hi.
Kabirji, we were talking about Milarepa earlier, and I think you mentioned something that he doesn't have any hopes.
No expectation and no hope.
Yeah, so I was just wondering that when a being is enlightened, do they not have hopes that others are free of suffering?
Of course. But at a Buddha's level, actually, there are no conceptual thoughts. So there is no hope in that sense. They have created a situation where they spontaneously do what is necessary for others. Like the sun doesn't have hope to shine, the sun just shines, right? There's no expectation, no hope. So in that sense, the Buddha energy just flows due to the incalculable, amazing merit that have been created that causes a Buddha to arise. Let's put it in that clumsy language. A Buddha arises, we become enlightened due to the accumulation of merit and wisdom, right? So those incalculable, amazing accumulations of merit and wisdom have created a Buddha who acts spontaneously without thought, without the need to think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So in that sense, without hope means to be non-conceptual. But also, as I mentioned, it's not about being hopeless in the ordinary sense of us, ordinary pain, suffering sentient beings. This is without hope in the sense of without any vain hope, without any, ignorant hope, that kind of thing. It's basically referring to I think, the non-conceptual, spacious mind of the yogi, which you and I can tap into when we're relaxed and not striving for too much, and we're, the right atmosphere. We can also feel that way to a little degree. So like that. Does that make sense, Ashwin?
Yeah, Kabirji, that makes sense.
Good, good. Wow, sometimes one makes sense. That's so nice. Until you hear teachers who say, well, you have to go beyond sense, beyond rational mind. You have to believe in magic. There's magic going on in the universe, one teacher said recently. So then you go, oh, you mean logic and rationality aren't enough? And they say, yes, not enough. Yeah. Rationality can apparently take us so far, but not to the very end. I mean, what's rational about, jumping into a river and saving someone without any, without any concern for your own safety or life? What's rational about that? Kind of thing. That sense of grace may come in life. So what's rational about that? It can't be described in rational terms. But anyway, I'm going beyond myself now. Anybody else? Vinshu, Subhashini, Ajirji, Deepika, Tushita Delhi. There's somebody called Tushita Delhi. Oh,
That's me, Kabirji.
I'm also called Tushita Delhi. That's okay. Good name.
I joined as Tushita so I could start the recording.
Thank you. Very kind. Yeah, I've lost a lot of brain cells, so we need younger people with more brain cells to remind us of such things. Arunaji, any comment apart from saying how happy you are to be here and see me, which is very nice of you, of course. Learning, you were dozing half of the time. What? I guess you're having auspicious dreams? No? Dreaming of things. All sorts of thoughts. Yes, all sorts of thoughts. Maybe some sad thoughts, given that Sureshji is no more. So his cremation is 2 p.m. tomorrow. 11 a.m.? The message said 2 p.m. Hold on, let me check. You may be right, given my memory. Yeah, can't find it now. 2 p.m. it says. The actual official message with his photograph. You can check. This is whom I'm talking about, Suresh Jindal. He was a lovely man. He ate a lot of pan parag. He used to chew in his younger years. But yeah, it says very clearly 2 p.m. Lodi crematorium. Yeah.
Because I was at a meeting this morning and they said 11 a.m.
That's strange. I don't think they'd have put this out with the wrong timing, but we can check. It's from Rishi and Anu Agarwal family and so forth. Anyway, so sad thoughts when we remember. Yes. Yeah. What else, folks? Yeah, people, when they go, they leave a gap. Vajirji and I would take the metro together to Jorbagh, and then a scooter to Sureshji's house. And it was always wonderful to be there. So yeah, what else, folks? Subhashini, Apurva, Divya, Nivita, Divya, Chahat, Vinshu, Vishad, Isar, you've taken off your coat. Your central heating is kicked in.
No, just feeling a little warm, Kabirji.
Suffering of change, eh?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Chahat, you've now transformed into, that looks like the Dharamsala area, that picture, your icon, that photograph.
Yeah, this is actually Manali.
Manali, yes.
Yeah.
Anything else, folks, or we'll stop? Otherwise, we'll be discussing trees and weather and timings of funerals.
It's great pleasure, sir. Kabirji, Holiness
Haji.
received the Gandhi Mandela Award.
Which
His
award?
Holiness received Gandhi Mandela Award.
Gandhi Mandela Award. Yes, I saw that.
This is on 19th November.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
an international award, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. If it inspires some people to actually study what Gandhiji and Mandela did. But I fear that there'll be a time
First
when,
award given to Thich Nhat Hanh, then this year this is to His Holiness received the award.
Achha.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just saying there may be a time when people forget, maybe not the names, but really what Mandela and Gandhiji did, how brave they were, how unusual they were for their time, how much suffering they went through, and how they used it to achieve something remarkable inwardly and also outwardly. Yeah.
Both Buddhist master received the award. First Thich Nhat Hanh 2019, then this year His Holiness Dalai Lama ji.
So yeah, let it remind us of our great potential to be like them. We should aspire to be like them, don't you think?
Even sir, Kabir ji, South Indian Theravada tradition, they are running a campaign to Bharat Ratna for Dalai Lama ji.
I see.
The campaign,
yeah. Many of us, many. That campaign started last year.
From South India, Nagpur.
Many people are doing that, are signing in for that. Some people I know started that campaign. It's worthwhile. It's worthwhile. But as I say, His Holiness Dalai Lama would be most happy if we were to study and practice his teachings on compassion and wisdom also, not just to go in for all these things, which are also good. It is good.
It's inspired, inspires.
Becomes a bit political sometimes.
Political.
Can be. I mean, not our motivation, but other people may see it as political. And it obviously will upset some people. Yeah. What else, folks, before we stop, before we dedicate? Anything? Okay, so let's dedicate using verses from Shantideva himself, from chapter 10 in his great work. Now, of course, we're dedicating also for the peaceful death, because from a Buddhist perspective, Sureshji passed away clinically died this afternoon, early afternoon. But in terms of the subtle consciousness leaving the body, that may not occur for 2 to 3 days, actually, even for an ordinary being. The consciousness doesn't leave the body immediately. So let us hope that the body is able to be calm and be guided by the great teachers who undoubtedly have been praying for him. He had some very great teachers, Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Zongsa Rinpoche have been informed, and who knows, other beings, bodhisattvas, Buddhas may be praying for him. And so we can also dedicate that his consciousness has peaceful passage to the next life, and that in his next life, he is as dedicated and active as he was in this one, but for the Dharma, may he continue to benefit people with his artistic creativity and so forth. May he have a good, precious human rebirth and never be separated from Dharma or authentic teachers. And may that be the way for all of us. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting one another. May troubled wanderers who have lost their way meet with fellow travelers, and without any fear of thieves and tigers, may their going be easy without any fatigue. May beings be free from all states of no leisure and be endowed with faith, wisdom, and kindness. With food obtained in a proper manner and excellent conduct, may they be mindful throughout their lives. May those who have little splendor come to be endowed with majesty. May those whose bodies are worn with toil find magnificent and noble form. Sometimes you see workers or people or even certain animals who have kind of very tired and twisted and very exhausted forms, bodies, very suffering bodies for old people. So here Shantideva is praying for them. May those who have little splendor, like they be endowed with majesty. May those whose bodies are worn with toil find magnificent and noble forms. May sentient beings have lives inconceivably long when in fortunate realms. May they always live in contentment, unfamiliar with even the word death. May all embodied creatures uninterruptedly hear the sound of dharma issuing from birds and trees, from beams of light, and even from space itself. May no living creature ever suffer, commit wrong, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, or their minds ever be depressed. Just as they intended, may the Bodhisattvas fulfill the welfare of the world, and may all sentient beings receive whatever the Buddhas have intended for them. For as long as space endures, and for as long as living beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the misery of the world. May the teachings, which are the sole medicine for suffering and the origin of every joy, be materially supported and honored and abide for a very long time. I prostrate to Manjughosha, through whose kindness wholesome minds ensue, and I prostrate to my spiritual masters, through whose kindness I develop. May all our spiritual masters have long and healthy lives. May all their Dharma wishes be fulfilled. May our lives be tremendously meaningful for others in all kinds of ways, and may we be able to give temporal and ultimate happiness to infinite number of beings. Okay, thank you very much. Next session Sunday morning, 11. But also remember, on next Wednesday, the 30th, we have very, very excellent teacher, Glenn Svensson, talking on insight into emptiness. And he gives very practical and, what shall I say, very, very well put together talks where we can understand things point by point, step by step. So highly recommended to keep that in your diary. 6:30 on Wednesday, the 30th of this month. Yeah, the notice went out today. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Kabir ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank